There's a quiet kind of suffering we rarely talk about, the feeling of being disconnected from ourselves in the noise of everyday life. We chase perfection. We seek approval. We scroll endlessly, argue unnecessarily, and carry stories that no longer serve us. But what if the path to peace wasn't about adding more, but letting go? In this video, you'll walk through the forgotten art of stillness. You'll explore how to release the need to be loved, to be right, to know it all, and in return, reclaim clarity, strength, and freedom. Grounded in the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy, this journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the calm, clear, and courageous version of you, the one buried beneath distraction and doubt. Stay with this video, not just to learn, but to remember who you are when the world goes quiet. Letting go of the need to be loved, the beginning of inner freedom. Imagine a moment of silence, where there is no applause for you, no admiring gazes, no compliments from others. There's only you with yourself. In that moment, you realize something vital. If you don't love yourself, no one else can ever truly fill that emptiness. We grow up in a world that encourages recognition. From a young age, every right action is rewarded. Every time we please others, we are praised. Slowly, we learn to attach our worth to external validation. A like on social media, a compliment from a coworker, a smile from a loved one. We let our emotions sway with every reaction from the outside world. But what happens when those reactions stop coming? What happens when you sit in a quiet room and no one is cheering? No one is listening? Do you still feel valuable? Or do you begin to doubt yourself, worry, fear that without being loved, you no longer matter? Stoic philosophy teaches us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. True strength doesn't come from being loved by others. It comes from looking into the mirror, seeing yourself, and not needing anyone to validate that it matters. When you let go of the need to be loved, you don't become cold or distant. On the contrary, you become more honest. You act not to please others, but from what you truly believe in. You dare to speak your mind, live your own way, and stand firm even when no one agrees. Do you remember Kafka? A man who wrote in silence, without needing fame or understanding. He didn't write to be loved, he wrote because he could not write. And that pure truthfulness is what gave his legacy its timeless power. So if tomorrow you no longer needed anyone to love you, what would you do? What dream would you pursue that's been shelved? Would you slow down or dare to move faster? Would you live as if no one were watching? Remember Seneca's words, he who is brave is free. You don't need to wait to be loved to start living. You just need the courage to let go of everything that no longer serves you. And then you'll see, freedom doesn't come from others' gaze. It comes in the quiet moment, when you can look at yourself and smile, letting go of the desire to know it all. A journey back to clarity. There is a quiet kind of exhaustion that creeps into the modern mind, the pressure to know everything, understand everything, keep up with everything. In the age of information, we believe the more we know, the stronger we become. Yet strangely, the more we try to understand everything, the more overwhelmed, anxious, and powerless we feel. Have you noticed this? We live in a sea of information, where every question has an answer just a click away. But that convenience leaves our minds with no rest, because as soon as we understand one thing, 100 new questions flood in. And so we spiral through this thing called knowledge. Without realizing, our minds are overloaded, our hearts are exhausted. Epictetus said, we are disturbed not by events, but by the views we take of them. Just like a glass already full of water, pour in more, and it spills. Our minds work the same when we cram in what we don't need. There's no space left to listen to ourselves. Have you ever felt confused just from reading too much news, joining too many debates, or trying to understand a topic that has no relevance to your life. Why do we feel anxious about things that aren't even ours to carry? Because we confuse expanding perspective with controlling reality. We think that the more we know, the safer we'll be. But the truth is, some things don't need to be known. And the more we know, the more scattered we become. The Stoics remind us, don't waste your mind on what lies beyond your control. You don't need to understand the entire world. You only need to understand yourself and act well within your sphere of influence. Think of a person who once stayed up all night reading, learning, searching, hoping to find the key to life. But in the end, he was exhausted, more lost, and more disconnected from himself than ever. That person could be you or me at some point in time. And then one day, he stopped. He no longer searched for every answer. He returned to simple things, listening to music, rereading an old book, spending time with loved ones, or simply sitting in silence, breathing, not needing to know anything more. Then something unexpected happened. The mind cleared, the heart lightened, and life became more obvious than ever. That's not ignorance, that's wisdom. The courage to choose what's worth knowing and what's worth letting go. So what about you? Are you carrying too much unnecessary knowledge in your head? Are you chasing questions that don't really change your life? If so, pause. Don't search further. Instead, listen within. Because what you truly need to know, it's always been inside you, waiting for you to be quiet enough to see it. And when you learn to not know everything, that's when you start seeing everything clearly. Clarity doesn't come from knowing more, but from knowing what to let go of. Letting go of the habit of blame, the first step toward owning your life. There's something we often do without realizing it. Every time we fail, every time life doesn't go our way, we instinctively look outward and find someone to blame. It's the ex's fault they left. It's the boss's fault for not understanding us. It's society's fault for being harsh. Our parents' fault for pressuring us. Our friends' fault for not supporting us. It sounds reasonable, but it doesn't help you grow. It doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't move you even one step forward. The truth is, the more we blame, the more we give away our power, because we unconsciously hand over the pen, writing our life story to someone else. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are disturbed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's not comfort. It's awakening. Imagine you're holding a book, the book of your life. Yesterday's page might be messy, today's page still unfinished, but from this moment forward, you're still holding the pen. So what will you write? Blame won't take you forward. On the contrary, it locks you into the role of a victim, and victims have no choice. Don't get it wrong. We've all been hurt, been treated unfairly, betrayed, disappointed. But the one thing you can always choose, no matter the circumstance, is how you respond. When you begin to take responsibility for your life, you don't become weaker, but stronger. Think of someone who has failed, been betrayed, lost everything. He could blame the world. But instead, he asks, what was my role in this? What can I learn? What do I need to do next? In that moment, he's no longer a victim. He becomes a creator, not of the perfect life, but of a stronger self. Maybe you've been in a painful relationship, but instead of only blaming the other person, ask, what did I overlook? What do I need to change in how I love, listen, and protect myself? That's the question of someone who has matured. Someone willing to face the truth without flinching. And that's the first step to inner freedom. Epictetus taught, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. So what do you choose? To stay stuck in old stories, replaying a version of yourself that always feels powerless? Or to stand up, take the wheel, and write a new story, one that's clear, strong, and decisive. Life is not easy, but if you're brave enough to give up blame, you'll gain something priceless: the power to own yourself. And once you're ready for that responsibility, nothing outside you will be able to keep you down for long. Because strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up and asking, what did I learn from this fall? Letting go of the need to win. The power of silence. Have you ever walked away from an argument, yet your heart still raged for hours afterward? The unfinished words, the stinging remarks, the condescending looks that robbed you of sleep. Not because you were wrong, but because you didn't win. The ego within us craves to be right, to be acknowledged, to stand above. But in Stoic philosophy, there is a truth that the more deeply you understand, the lighter your heart becomes. You don't need to win to be at peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up over things you can't control." This is not avoidance. It is the freedom to choose where to place your energy. Imagine yourself standing in a room filled with arguments, people shouting to defend their views, faces red with fury, emotions crashing like waves. But in a quiet corner, one person remains silent, not out of fear, not out of apathy, but because he understands truth doesn't need to shout. It stands firm on its own. When you learn not to react, you are not weak. You are controlling your emotions. When you refuse to engage in meaningless battles, you don't lose. You free yourself from mental exhaustion. You might be right, but you don't need to prove it. Because something more valuable than being right is mental clarity and peace of heart. There's a story about the physicist Richard Feynman. Brilliant, yet never eager to impose his views. He once said, "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned." To him, knowledge wasn't about winning arguments. It was about listening and observing. You can bring that into your life. When someone attacks you, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, do I really need to respond? Silence is not weakness. Often, it is the highest form of strength. The weak need victory to feel worthy. The strong understand that true worth requires no validation. And so you'll begin to see, not everyone deserves your energy. Not every debate needs your voice. Sometimes, what you need to protect is not your opinion, but your clarity. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You cannot control everyone, but you can always control your own response. Next time you're provoked, remember, you don't need to win. You only need to stay clear. And in this noisy world, those who remain quiet within are always the strongest. Embracing imperfection, the first step toward a free mind. We live in a world obsessed with perfection. Every photo is carefully edited. Every status is measured before it's posted. Everyone wants to present the best, strongest, most flawless version of themselves. But deep in your mind, perhaps you've asked, if people saw the imperfect parts of me, would they still love me? That seemingly harmless question is often the root of fear, anxiety, and the masks we wear all our lives. Stoicism does not teach us to become perfect. It teaches us something far more important: to become the kind of person who can look at imperfection and still move forward. Seneca once said, "Progress begins when you become your own friend." It's the moment you see the cracks within yourself and no longer wish to hide them. The moment you realize that scars don't weaken you, they make you real. Imagine an old Japanese ceramic bowl, cracked and broken, but instead of throwing it away, it is repaired with gold. This art is called kintsugi, where beauty lies not in flawlessness, but in the cracks filled with light. And so it is with you. You don't need to hide your mistakes, your wounds, your detours. You only need to learn how to face them, embrace them, and understand you can still move forward. Think of the story of Albert Einstein, once labeled as not smart enough for school. Yet rather than let criticism define his life, he accepted his different way of thinking and used it to transform how we understand the universe. You too have that power. If you keep chasing someone else's standard, you will never feel enough. But if you accept yourself fully, including the flaws, you will no longer be anyone's copy. You will be yourself. Flaws are not failures. They are the raw material of resilience. Have you ever blamed yourself for a mistake? Told yourself, I'm too weak, too bad, not good enough? Then starting today, try asking a different question. What is this mistake trying to teach me? When you stop judging yourself, your mind clears. When you stop running from imperfection, you become free. And when you understand that flaws are part of the journey, you'll realize resilience isn't never falling, it's getting up every time, with clearer eyes. Reflect on this. If you didn't have to be the best, how would you live? If you didn't have to please everyone, what would you say? And if you stopped hiding your unfinished parts, how would you feel? Maybe the answers will move you to tears. That's okay. It means you've touched the truth, and truth will set you free. Stoicism does not ask us to be numb, it asks us to feel pain, but not let it rule us. In a world racing toward perfection, the one who dares to live truthfully, to accept themselves, is the strongest of all. Freeing yourself from limiting stories. There is a kind of chain that makes no sound. It binds neither your hands nor your feet, but it wraps tightly around your mind and controls your life from the shadows. These are the stories you quietly tell yourself. I'm not good enough. I always fail. I can't change. They sound like truth. They echo in your head like an old refrain. And slowly, you start to believe that's who you are. But have you ever stopped to ask, who wrote those stories? Are those your words? Or are they echoes from the past, from someone who once hurt you? Stoicism teaches, we don't suffer from the events themselves, we suffer from our interpretation of them. Seneca wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Maybe you failed once, but it is the belief I am a failure that becomes your prison. Maybe you were once rejected, but it is the thought I'm unworthy that builds your wall. The truth is, you are not your old story. You are the one who can rewrite it starting now. Imagine your mind as a book. The first chapters may be messy, chaotic, full of ink stains and errors. But here's the miracle. You always have the power to write the next chapter. And it all begins with a simple question. If I no longer believed this old story, what would I do differently? Maybe you'd start over. Maybe you'd dare to love again, speak your truth, or dream bigger simply because you no longer see yourself as stuck. No one is born with a fixed identity. Humans are built to evolve from within. But that evolution only begins when you let go of the old stories and rewrite them with awareness. Clear thinking isn't thinking more. It's thinking less, but thinking clearly. And to do that, you must listen closely to your inner voice. Identify which stories are rooted in fear and ask, does this story help me move forward? If not, end it firmly. You have the right to say, I used to think I couldn't, but today, I choose to believe otherwise. I am no longer the version of me from last year. I am evolving day by day. I don't need others to affirm my worth. I choose to see it within myself. That is the choice of a decisive soul, one who knows where they are going, and more importantly knows they are worthy of going there, facing yourself in silence. There is something very few people dare to do, to sit still, alone, in silence. No phone, no conversation, no sound except the slow rhythm of your own breath. It sounds simple, but in reality, it's one of the bravest acts a modern human can undertake, because in that silence, there's no one left to blame, nothing left to distract you, only you facing yourself. And when that happens, everything you've been avoiding begins to surface. Fears you've never named, wounds you thought you'd forgotten, deep questions about your worth, your purpose, and your reason for being. The Stoics called this retreat within yourself not to escape the world, but to return to the clarity of your mind amidst the storm of daily life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "People seek retreats in the countryside, by the sea, or in the mountains. But, my dear, you always have the power to retreat into yourself." And he added, "Nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and trouble-free retreat than in his own mind." We don't need more voices. We need silence to hear the voice within. This is where you truly examine your life, where you'll begin to see what is making you irrationally angry. What are you clinging to that controls your emotions? What must you let go of to regain your peace? Silence is where you understand, not just react, where you make choices with clarity, not driven by instinct. A person who can sit quietly with themselves is someone who no longer fears the truth. And from that space, they begin building a kind of strength no one can take away, inner power. So how do you practice? Every day, take 10 minutes to do nothing. No phone, no music, no reading. Just sit and observe your mind. Write down your thoughts afterward. Write honestly, unfiltered. Witness the layers of emotion moving beneath the surface. Ask, where is this emotion coming from? Is it still serving me? Can I let it pass gently? You may be surprised to discover that most anxiety, anger, jealousy, they don't truly belong to you. They're echoes of old experiences and outdated beliefs you've never paused to examine. And from the moment you dare to sit down and listen, you're no longer a runaway. You are becoming the leader of your inner world. And that is the beginning of a quiet revolution. No noise, no declarations, no battles. Just you, sitting, listening, and moving forward with a mind steady like rock amidst the waves of life. Turning clarity into action. One step, one decision. You may understand your emotions. You may stay calm in chaos. You may sit alone in silence without fear. But if you stop there, you've only walked halfway. Because no matter how strong your inner power is, if it's not translated into action, it remains like a river that never flows. Stoicism doesn't teach us to become wise only to hide in theory. It teaches us to live by acting every day in accordance with what we've come to understand. Because resilience doesn't come from knowledge. It comes from relentless practice. Remember Epictetus's words, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Action is the final test of all clarity. You may read hundreds of pages, but the real value lies in the moment you make the right decision while your emotions are pulling you the other way. Examples: when you want to lash out at someone in anger, but pause, breathe, and speak calmly instead. When you want to procrastinate another day, but choose to stand up, write that email, finish the task, train your body, clean your space. When you feel down, but instead of numbing out with unconscious entertainment, you sit with your feelings and choose to do something meaningful, even something small. That's action rooted in inner strength. That's the decision of someone who no longer lives by impulse, but by intention. There is a Stoic principle called premeditatio malorum, foreseeing misfortune, not to fear it, but to prepare for it. If I'm criticized today, how will I respond? If someone hurts me, will I let them control my emotions, or will I own my reaction? If I fail tomorrow, will I give up, or will I learn and return stronger? Acting with awareness, not autopilot, is what separates you from the masses. Most people react. The Stoic chooses. And every time you do the right thing, however small, you're forging steel into your soul. You're becoming the person you admire. No one needs to see that process. No one needs to know. But you know. And that alone is enough to carry you through. Try asking yourself each morning, today, Will I act like someone I respect, or like someone controlled by emotion? One right choice repeated can change your entire life. Inner freedom, the final battle, and a silent vow. There comes a moment in life when you must face yourself. No one left to blame, nowhere left to hide, no more reasons to postpone. Just you and the truth, not the truth about the world, but the truth about the life you're living and the person you could become. And at that crossroads, a quiet question rises: is my freedom truly mine, or is it just an illusion painted by others? Inner freedom is not about what you do, where you go, or what you say. It's your ability to remain grounded amidst everything. It's when others get angry and you don't respond with anger. It's when everything collapses and you stay centered. It's when someone insults you and you don't react with pain, but with understanding. You are not your emotions. You are not your circumstances. You are how you respond to them. That is the essence of Stoicism. Not to seek an easy life, but to train yourself into someone unbreakable. But you won't reach that through thought alone. You must practice every day in silence. When insulted, practice composure. When surrounded by chaos, practice focus. When uncertain, practice decisiveness through purposeful action. When lonely, practice standing firm without needing approval. Inner freedom is not given. It is forged like steel in fire. It comes when you dare to let go of the need to be understood, dare to decline meaningless conversations, dare to stay silent while others argue, choosing to protect the peace in your mind like sacred ground no one may enter without permission. And one day, when you no longer need others to understand you, no longer need to prove you're right, no longer fear losing anything outside, you'll realize you've had everything within. That is the destination, but also the beginning. Because from the depths of inner freedom, every action you take carries unshakable strength. You no longer live to react. You live to shape. No longer pulled by the crowd, you walk the path you've chosen, even if no one applauds, even if no one sees. And that is the clearest, strongest, and freest version of you. If you've made it this far, it's not by accident. The journey of mastering emotions, cultivating resilience, and thinking with clarity is not for those who chase quick results. It is for those brave enough to change themselves. One decision, one breath, one moment at a time. So keep going, quietly, steadily, and never look back. Because from this moment on, you no longer live to please the world. You live to complete yourself.